There we go. How is that? Can you actually hear me? Let me try out the new microphone, see how that's going. So I don't normally come on open or in front of the camera, so this is new for me. There we go. I wanted to keep my phone going so that I can actually in real time respond to you guys when you have questions or anything like that. But because I'm trying to just really hone in on how to navigate some of this new software I've been using, that's something big that I'll be sharing with you guys tonight as well. But let me see. Okay, so bear with me. I'm going to come back over here and get this caught up. Okay. All right. So, welcome in. I wanted to give you guys just a few moments to come in, say hello. Hey. So, this is just a cozy catch up with you guys. I feel like I've been doing quite a bit of posting behind the scenes, but then not really having the opportunity to just finalize the video. And so I just wanted to share all the things. There's quite a bit going on this side. And so, yeah, I just want to say hello as you guys are coming in. Hi, Holly. So, I will say, welcome in, everyone. I'll give everybody a few minutes just because I've been tinkering around with the microphone and lighting and all the things. But whole concept is just to be casual and pretty much unplugged, with the exception of the necessary electronics. But it has been a busy season, unfortunately or fortunately, in true crime, and I feel like I've it's not like I haven't been paying attention. I've definitely been paying attention. I've been watching probably more trials than uh, that's actually taken away from being able to post quite a bit. So, but there's so much we need to talk about, and I'm happy to be back. I really am. This is my first week where so last week I was sick, but last week was my official first week of going part-time as a nurse. So that's a big update right there, is my days of all the excessive overtime and working at the hospital all just nonstop. Thankfully, I've been able to bump down to part-time, so that's been really nice. But there have been reasons for that. And so one of the things I just wanted to talk to you guys about briefly is a health update. A lot of times, I don't know if you guys have noticed or not, but a lot of times I will post a live or a video that's going to, premiere and come out, and I'll put like premiering tonight at 8 p.m. And then, bless you guys. I love you so much for just being consistent through the years and always showing up. And I hate it that there are times when like I've had to either postpone or cancel a video or something just because something on, more so on my end, timing was just not aligning. And I had a commenter one time say, well, maybe it's happening like this because you're not supposed to, maybe it was one of those things like maybe God's not wanting you to post what you're supposed to be saying. And I actually beg to differ. I feel like it's quite the contrary. However, one of the things that I have been experiencing quite a bit has been extreme fatigue, and I'm talking extreme, um, to where it's been concerning. I've always had kind of like aches and pains, that types of thing, but I've always just kind of been like, nah, whatever, you're a nurse or I'm a nurse. And it's like, oh, you just suck it up, go to work, deal with it, take some ibuprofen, get over it. Um, And so I have basically, in a nutshell, been pretty well forced to listen to my body, and I've been blessed now to be able to. Um, Part of my previous marriage had a lot of abuse involved in it emotionally, and honestly, this channel was a big part of it was my outlet early on. And I'm talking like I started it at such a just point in my life where like I was probably the unhealthiest I'd ever been, and I gained quite a bit of weight, and all the things that go on top of that. And we'll talk more about mental and emotional abuse, what that looks like, how that really takes a toll on your body. I kind of hint at it in some of my videos, but I'm very, very blessed that now that is not the life that I live anymore. I am very well loved and appreciated. And man, like life has been wonderful. But life on the health front has been lifing big time. So I've been working really hard to make sure I get adequate rest. I've been working hard. I've had to cut out certain foods. I've had to really dial back just several factors. And one of you, Angel Eyes, am I okay? I'm okay in the sense of I think we have an idea of what it is, but I don't really want to just throw stuff out there until I have definitive results. Which I go on the 23rd of this month for a couple more ultrasounds. So I'm really hoping that that will give us some insight. Um, and so I've been seeing a really good rheumatologist. I'm very thankful for that. And so basically, I have been balancing work, life, um, and health. Health has had to just be prioritized. So I'll move on from that. I will keep you guys posted. And now that I'm working part time, I'm hoping and getting to the point where I will now be able to really finalize those videos and get things moving. I mean, I invested a lot of time, effort, energy to travel to Colorado, to travel to North Carolina again, and got some really good footage. I got some interviews from some locals. I've been in touch with someone very, very close to the case, and potentially may have a face-to-face conversation at some point, if not at least over the phone. And I do have some other means of communication that are opening up close to the Watts case. And so I'm very careful with those contacts. I keep that very close to the vest, um, because I feel like it is no longer about just discussing the case. I think it's it's very important to, in moving forward from the Watts case in general, as well as discussing any other case, I think it's really, really important that we learn something from it, that we take something from it, that we heal part of ourselves that maybe we didn't realize was needing to be healed. And it's, welcome in, guys. If you're coming in, just drop in. We're just doing like a cozy little catch up, okay? And so I try not to drag this out. So bear with me. I'm like finally getting rid of a headache this evening. So it feels great now. I'm starting to feel better. Um, so basically, I have quite a bit of content that I've been sitting on for quite some time now. Like that's why you guys haven't seen a whole lot of videos coming out. You haven't seen, it's because I know what's coming down the pipeline. I know what's taking time to cultivate and nurture. But I also understand and know that it is extremely important that when we're talking about these cases, number one, we're always being respectful to the families, and that we are not just regurgitating what we already know. And I've noticed that with a couple other channels here lately, and that is I see where people are saying like there's new photos or there's new this or there's new that. And these are channels that I respect and I do enjoy watching from time to time. But then I watch it and I'm like, well, what's new? Because I mean, I've kind of been out of the loop for a little bit. So I was like, well, what's new? Like, did something come up? And much to my disappointment, it's the same stuff we've already had. So then why are we advertising or promoting our channels and content as something new when it's not new? But what should be new are the topics that we're discussing related to the case. Why do we keep talking about it? Well, we keep talking about it for a reason. There are so many social aspects of the Watts case that we could totally dive deeper into, and we will. At least on this channel, we will be diving into that. And so I just want to keep that in mind. And so if you have questions, wonder what's going on, I promise you there's stuff coming that like, for example, I do know that the climate in North Carolina and Aberdeen, much to the dismay of what people on YouTube would have you believe, it died down a lot for the Ruseks. It really did not, it's not been perpetuating as much as the YouTube climate wants you to think. When you visit Aberdeen and you get to know the people there and you get to speak to the locals, you realize that unfortunately, because we're not talking about these behaviors, because we're not talking about the difficulties that young couples are feeling, or the importance and significance of economical status, what that does to a family, or what's brewing, the fact that we keep these behaviors blanketed and covered, you wouldn't know it, but there's already been another crime in Aberdeen that was just as bad, if not worse, than the Watts case. And you've heard nothing about it. Absolutely nothing about it. And that's coming from a local, because one of my questions to one of the local business owners was, do you always get people in here asking about Watts? Do you, what's it like around town? And much to my surprise, it actually has died down quite a bit for them. And it's all because that second case happened, and it happened not too long after the Watts did. So I did get to interview a florist. I briefly went into it on one of my videos recently, but some of the conversations I've had, I will be talking a little more in detail and in depth about those things. But it's also because I really want to dive deeper into the behaviors that we just keep bypassing over. So moving on, let's see. So I gave you my health update. Wedding. I would show you my ring, but guess what happened? I have this beautiful ring. I'm going to show you the engagement. So we had the sweetest engagement, or proposal, I should say. And this was actually captured by a stranger in the park. Like, it was just him and I in the park, and he gets stage fright. Like, it's so crazy. Like, he was a chief of police, but even when he was chief, he didn't like to give the pressers, because he didn't like talking in front of people. And so he's just not really one to get up in front of large crowds or anything like that. And so we went to Helen, Georgia, at Christmas time, and it was just so magical. And if you know me, I am obsessed with Christmas. I love Christmas. And it was, he'd had this whole thing planned out. It was myself, him, and my two boys on our little family trip. And we went walking, is towards the end of our trip. We're walking through the park, and you can tell it was, I mean, it was pitch black dark. And if you weren't immediately in front of the lights, then you could not see really anybody. Like, you barely could see the people in front of you. And so um, he was like, "Oh, well, this is cute," and he totally had me fooled because he loves me and understands that I love to take photos, especially like with Christmas. And so he's like, "Oh, we can get a photo over here." And I was like, "Okay." So he's like, "Here, let me take one for, he's like, "Let me just take one." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And so then he positions me over underneath this little canopy of lights, and he's like, "Okay, I think this is right." And he's like, "Now, only turn around when I tell you to turn around." And I was like, "Okay, okay." And so then he told me to turn around, and I guess the girls next to us recognized what he was about to do. So I have a little clip. I don't have it ready. I don't have the clip ready to show you, but I wanted to show you the photo. The photo was from the video clip, and it's probably like 8 seconds long. And it was the most organic capture of a proposal. And I'm so thankful that this girl did it. And so back to the story about my ring. It's a beautiful ring. You can even see it pinging or, glistening off the lights. So pretty. Absolutely obsessed with it. Love it. And I took Xander to a football camp, and he had not been feeling well the day before. And so I was up late at night again, the whole health things. I can't sleep because of the body aches and stuff. And so um, I'm up trying not to wake my son up. And so I go to close the pocket door on the hotel bathroom. And when I went to close the pocket door, it smashed my hand, and it literally bent my ring so hard that it smashed it into my finger. And I had to go downstairs to the lobby at like 3 a.m. just to have them pry it off my finger. So we did finally get the message from the jeweler. And so we had to get it completely remade. Um, and the jeweler's like, "Man, she must have hit her hand so hard and it hurt so bad." But so yeah, so we're engaged. I'm really excited. We are having our wedding in Glacier National Park. And so I'm really excited about that. Um, so, you know, you'll start to see Mrs. Boes, Boes, added to a lot of stuff. I'm really excited about that. Wedding, even like an elopement or micro wedding that we're doing in the national park, you would think it would be simple, and for the most part it is, but man, it's like all the little moving pieces, because to get married in the national park, you have to get a permit, you have to be approved, your location, you have a time frame. So we made sure we hired the photographers, and then so the photographers and the dress, and we're really excited about all of that. And now we're watching the gas prices and the airline prices because it's crazy trying to fly. It's going to be just us and our kids out there. So we're really excited. That'll be coming up in October. And then Xander, for those of you that have been with me all these years, I started this 6 years ago. And Xander was only in, I guess it was only in sixth grade at the time, whenever I started the House Huddle. And well, no, I take that back. My Ashley M channel, the very first one where I was doing a lot of like ghostwriting for other channels and doing research for other creators. That's where I met ATS News, was in the early days when Xander was about seventh grade. And then he was actually in ninth grade, I believe, when I started the House Huddle. And believe it or not, guys, he is going to be a senior in high school next year. So my baby is going into his senior year. I am 1000% feeling every emotion known to mankind. I should say to mom kind, because we are feeling it. She is. I absolutely love her. Um, the so being in his senior year, and football is, he's been playing football since he was 4. And then, of course, we hit ninth, 10th grade, and he had a growth spurt, but I don't know if many don't really remember. Some of you may, but he had a brain mass back when he was about 8 years old, and it stunted his growth back then. And so through the years, he's kind of had to play catch up. And so he's been moved around quite a bit in football positions. And so right now, like, it is go time. We are traveling to football camps, to colleges, not just like we don't do the big camps. We do, like, if a coach has invited him to the camps, we go. If he potentially can get an offer at the college to play, we go. And so he's been working really hard. He's been working with a private coach he started with today. We're really excited about him. And when we moved, so when David and I met and we moved, we relocated 2 hours west. So then we changed time zones. And that was another thing, getting caught with the time difference. And so he's just been growing, maturing as a young man, and I couldn't be more proud of him as well. The school here, academically, it's wonderful. He's been through 3 football coaches in the 1 year that we've been here, so that has been a challenge, to say the least. But we're excited about this year. We're excited to see how it goes. So I do ask you guys to be praying for him, that his future will be whatever the good Lord says that it needs to be. And so he's looking at lineman, or want to stick with the trade, like lineman or offshore oil rig is something he's been looking or considering for post high school career. And so, my foot went to sleep. And Camden, my oldest, he is 20 now. Cannot believe I have a 20-year-old. And he is getting ready. He's home for summer now, so it's exciting. And he is getting ready to go into his second year at Houston Christian. Sorry, I'm just looking to make sure that I didn't miss any comments from you guys. Yes, there will be more regular lives. I'm trying to get a little more comfortable with being in front of the camera. I think more so now that my son is almost 18 years old, or the baby, I should say, is almost 18 years old. I feel a little more comfortable, putting your face out there, which brings us to the next couple things, and that is some of the new ventures that are coming for me personally. So professionally, I mentioned earlier that I took the step back. I'm still a nurse. I still work at the hospital, and I was previously working quite a bit of overtime. I was working full time. I was working night shifts, and my body just said, absolutely not. You're not doing that anymore. And so that made me start dusting off that degree that I have, because some know, some don't know, but one of the things that I did for myself personally after my divorce 17 years ago was I made sure that I went back to the university that I chose, and made sure that I graduated from my university of choice, that I was not pushed into a university that didn't have as much significance to me. And so for me, I was born and raised in Knoll, so you'll see FSU, but I actually attended and graduated from University of South Florida, and have a degree in public health. And so doing a lot of domestic violence advocacy and awareness has always been really, really important to me. That's pretty much the root and heart of this channel. And so I have been doing some more work in the background, working on a Supreme Court certification for child and family mediation, and I'm really excited about that. So I'm getting ready to start not only a consulting business to help with high conflict communications, but to also offer family mediation for court and custody cases. And on the back end of things, the more creative side, I've been working on the Dusty Jacket, which is and will be my online thrift store. So, one of my hobbies and one of the beautiful things about this new season of life is just being able to get back to or rediscover the hobbies that I've enjoyed, whether I enjoyed it previously or it's a new love that I've discovered, then I get to do those things. And so through thrifting, I was like, you know what? This is a great way to give back, help, and again, tap back into, men and women that are starting over that, I know what it's like to go through a divorce. You go, most of the time you end up starting over from nothing and trying to furnish your apartment or your townhome is expensive. And so thrifting was the way I did it with my boys through these years. So basically what I decided I was going to do is create this space where people can come and shop, and I'll go do the digging and the thrifting and all the things for you. And you just get to come scroll through the shop online and actually be able to afford some of the things. So, I'm just really excited about that. So those two things I work on the back end of YouTube and being a nurse. And then of course, it's extremely important to me to just be present this year. I mean, present every year, but this is, Xander's senior year. This is the last year of being a parent to a child. Because after this year, both of my boys are going to be grown. And then those relationships look a little bit different in a good way. So I have about 4 of you guys in here. I really appreciate you being here. And I do have a couple of things I wanted to share. And that is, I have a video clip from my trip to Colorado at the end of the live tonight that I want to share with you. So if you're in here and you don't mind, hit that like button. And then I don't know if it'll let you share while you're watching, but if you don't mind, sharing the live stream, because I'm going to show the video while I was in Colorado, and I'm going to explain the significance of that video. It's just something I'd really like to touch on with you guys. So, I know many of you are probably watching the Carmelo case, and especially since the verdict came in, the sentencing came back, and I definitely have it's just a heartbreaking case, but I do have my thoughts on that. I do want to share them, but I want to touch on this case real quick. So this is Dan Markel and Wendy Adelson. So Wendy Adelson is the wife. Dan Markel was the husband. And this was a couple based in Tallahassee. Basically, they both relocated from where they grew up to Tallahassee for work, for Danny's work. And this is a case that really pushed me into getting my certification for family mediation. This is one of the many reasons why I just felt God was pulling and calling me into a different public service area. And one of the things about this case that I still don't understand is how 2 lawyers who you're knowledgeable in the law, you know and understand how the court process works, why in the world were these two people allowed to continuously go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? And I'm talking back and forth. Divorce file like this, individual tiny sheets of paper makes a stack this big. Why no one, and judges included, why no one put a stop to it before it escalated to what it did? And so, again, conversations that we're not having. These should be conversations that are no-brainers. If you look at a case like the Adelson case, and I'm using this case because the Watts case is so just polarized that it's difficult to even say what I'm about to say. But you have a father and a mother in this case, both so focused on fighting with each other in the courts, not considering what that's doing to their children by way of the other parent. Now, if you've ever been in any type of high conflict situation, especially via text message or email, the moment that phone pings or that alert comes through, you're back on your phone. I mean, you're just like, a parent with the child cannot be focused on the child if they're always going back and forth with the other parent. And if both parents are choosing to act like that, why did no one stop them? Because one, mentally, it's unhealthy. Emotionally, it's unhealthy. Socially, it's unhealthy. And you're putting the children right in the middle of it. And yet, when you hear about this case, you will hear, he was such a great father. And I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that he was a good father. But I can tell you, I've been married to someone who was a good father, and it was for all the wrong reasons. And this is one of those cases where we won't get the answers that we need to objectively give a well-rounded opinion on this case unless Wendy Adelson is charged and tried. Because no one, and it baffles me, like maybe not with the hitman and the accomplice, even the girlfriend, maybe not even with the girlfriend, but by the time you brought her brother into the equation, by the time you tried and convicted her brother, tried and convicted her mother, why no one has touched that divorce? The prosecution has gone very little into it, only enough to try to like nudge Wendy on the stand, but no one's really digging into it. And my guess is because the moment that they do, that's when motive is going to come out, and it's going to come out big time. Still don't understand why it didn't come out in the other two, but my guess is because it's going to show him and his true colors in a completely different light. And they're trying to avoid that because he is the victim in this case. So I mention that because does it excuse what happened to him? No, there's no excuse for murder. We also cannot have the battered women syndrome or battered woman syndrome apply in this case. It doesn't. This was literally, in my opinion, at least what I've seen, and I've been watching this ever since the first trial and lived in the area. I literally lived less than 300 yards from their house. This was a nasty one. And this is why, in my opinion, children should be much more protected throughout a divorce. And why I feel like when we're talking about true crime cases, we have to talk about the reality, not, oh, this one's the victim, so then now this one's a martyr, and we have to pretend like they were perfect and nothing was ever wrong with them. It's the same with Shanann. Okay? I'm going to tiptoe back over to this one. All right? Do I think that she was a good mom? I do. I genuinely do. I think she was a good mom. From everything I've seen, I think she was a good mom. You can argue the baby wise all you want, and I'm going to tell you there is not a mother on this earth that picked up a baby book, picked up a regimen, read about a sleep schedule training or anything of that nature. Every first time mom who cares or is that type of mom is going to read and research and see what they can do to be the best mom that they can be. And she's not the only person in this country or in the world to ever use Baby Wise. I've shared it in my Baby Wise series. I had a friend use it. It created so many issues with her family. She actually agreed to be interviewed. She's one of the ladies that I will be interviewing because I want to revisit the Baby Wise. It was a time when even she and I were really good friends, and we lived close to each other. Our babies were born within a few months of each other. She used Baby Wise. I did not. And our friendship took a back burner big time over Baby Wise. So I do feel like I can share my opinion on this because I've been on the outside looking in, but I've also seen it work. I've also seen it done in a healthy manner. Your baby's sleeping with rain machines. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you having a sleep routine. There's nothing wrong with you saying, hey, this is how we do things in our house. And sorry if that doesn't work for said person. So do I think she's a good mom? I do. I really do. The thing in this case that bothers me is so many people are so worried about preserving her reputation and her memory that it's created an environment where you almost can't discuss the case in an objective light because you end up spending most of your time trying to drown out the noise of people just throwing out the most atrocious things. Like, no, duh, she didn't deserve anything. Nobody deserves to die, period. Like, no, she had a life. She, had motherhood. She had, she was ahead of her time. I mean, I firmly believe God's got us here when we're supposed to be here, and we have a purpose and a calling. And you know what? It's horrible the way it ended. Her purpose continues. Her purpose is bigger than she ever could have been here on this earth. And I'm a firm believer that our Creator knew that. He knew that before she was born. That's what's crazy. Like, if you believe the Bible, and it's okay if you don't, but if you believe the Bible, then you believe that before she was ever formed in her mother's womb, before Sandy ever even found out she was going to have a little girl, God already knew what was going to happen. He already knew the end game. And if that's the case, then what was her purpose? And it's much bigger, in my opinion, than anything anyone's giving her credit for. And she and her story will save so many more women, children, and maybe even spare some good men from ending up in prison by just having conversations about the case. And it's on both sides. Even with Chris, and people can say, oh, he was a good dad. He was a good husband. No, he was weak. Okay? He was weak because he should have been able to look at her and say, hey, you know what? Colorado's nice, but I kind of miss North Carolina. He should have been able to say, hey, I know you want me to go in the oil field because it's a more, respected job in some people's eyes, but I like working on cars. It fulfills me. But he didn't do that. He didn't have those conversations. No, he kept jumping and jumping to women who were going to validate him and give him that encouragement and move on. And so, if we're not having conversations, we're missing opportunities, guys. So I really want to make sure that on this channel that's what we're focusing on, because we can't bring her back. Silencing the truth and reality of this case is not ever going to bring her back. And stifling her memory into a little bitty box is not, hey, Amber, putting her in this little bitty box is not doing anything for her legacy and her mission beyond her time here on earth. I mean, she has a purpose. There was a purpose for why she left this world, when, how, and the way it happened. And I've been very careful and very mindful of the grieving process, especially with her family, because grief, it just comes like this. One day you're fine. The next day, a smell crosses your nose and you're ready to just crumble over. And it requires, it just requires you to be able to have respectful conversations. You can differ in opinions, but you still need to be able to share it. You need to be able to talk about it, but you also have to know when to maybe dial back a little bit and just really harness it in. And that was one of the things about Frankie's comments when I posted my very first video. He made the comment that, I really he felt like my video was like I almost understood her. Like I really understood her. And I do believe I do, because I lived that life, and you really don't understand it until you've lived that life. But is it the same? No. Every single one is very, very different. But there are themes. There are underlying themes in those types of relationships that continue. And probably one of the most pain in the rear comments that I see is that she didn't work. And I can tell you, from starting up the businesses that I've been working on, all of the effort that it takes, especially now, if you have a small business, the weight that social media and Facebook, so like Facebook, Instagram, you basically have to have your regular page, you have to have your professional page, then you have emails, and then in my case with consulting, you have WhatsApp, and so you're communicating under different apps. It's nonstop. And so prioritizing those things much like this life, I knew my fiance was going to men's group tonight. I knew about what time he was gonna get home. It's going okay, I can say good night. Here's, dinner, good night, all the things, and I can come in and do the live, and it doesn't take away from time with my family because everybody's asleep. Shanian worked hard. Did her hard work actually pay off? That's that's argumentative. But it wasn't because she didn't try. And I think that's, I don't know, little rant of mine, little soapbox. But anyway, back to what I was saying, the behaviors between Shanian, the behaviors between the Adelson Markel case, these are things we have to talk about. And now we're in the we just received the sentencing and the verdict and the sentencing in the Carmelo case. And that one really breaks my heart. I'm a track mom, cross country mom. You know what the rules are under the tent. You know how that stuff, how the whole point blank period, the fact that, I don't even want to say anything because I want to double check that, but I don't even want to list it as fact. I received some type of information that his parents were not in the courtroom when he was sentenced. I have not confirmed that yet, but if they were not in that courtroom when their son was sentenced, that speaks volumes. And I'm still digesting that one. It was rough, but we have to talk to our kids, grown kids, having these grown relationships with your kids. That is a topic that's coming in a video very, very soon. And so I'm going to wrap things up because we're getting close to an hour. But I want to leave you. I'm going to play a video I recorded out in Colorado when I was out there this last time. And I shared it in one of my stood where she stood videos that I made. But I just wanted to share with you, like, as we watch it, the feelings and the weight of what was going on when I was creating it. And so this was my last drive when I was leaving Frederick. I drove all the way back to the Saratoga Trail home. That's actually the Starbucks. When you see the cups in the trash can, that's the Starbucks where those came from. So it was really close to their house. And as I was driving out, ironically, I don't know if it'll show it in this clip or not. Yeah, so you can see the oil. I'm over here pointing like you can see my screen, but you can see the oil. Right there. And basically, as I was leaving Frederick, this was one of those moments where, I guess, to be candid with you, Shanian's case, I was already looking at it before I ever met my ex-husband. And then whenever I met him and all the things started happening, that's when I created the House Huddle. And the more I dove in, the more I was studying the behaviors, the more I was really just deep diving into the case. I was working through my own relationship and ultimately divorce. And I don't know, I always felt like you kind of wish that you could go to Colorado and just take her out of there, I was blessed to walk away from mine. I was blessed to get in the car and drive away. She didn't get a chance to do that. And so when I was making this drive, that was just like the thought process. That was what I was thinking about was, like, all right, girly, like, let's get in this truck and let's get the hell out of here. And so I'm going to come over and share. I believe I have to do a screen share. And I'll show you the actual video. All right. So hopefully you can hear the sound. Let me know if you can hear the sound. The most frightening part is how many women have stood exactly where she stood, believing they were home. When I left that day, I did not feel like I was leaving a case. I felt like I was leaving a person behind. As the road stretched farther from the house, something unexpected settled over me. Not heaviness, but peace. She was never only part of a tragedy. I've said this before. She was a mother, a friend, a sister, a woman living ordinary days in ordinary places. And somewhere along that drive, it felt less like I was driving away from her and more like I was carrying her forward. Because stories like hers don't end at a house, they live on in the women who keep going, choosing safety, choosing truth, choosing a life beyond survival. Maybe standing where she once stood wasn't meant to explain the ending, but to remind us that both freedom and healing are still possible. Her story continues in every woman who chooses freedom and healing. Until next time, thank you for joining me here at the House Huddle. You guys can hear me, just let me know. I'm still trying to figure this out. But so I just want to say thank you guys for being here tonight. If you joined in a little bit later, just kind of did like a cozy um, recap, just kinda catching up a little bit, sharing with you guys what was coming, not just in terms of videos. And there's definitely going to be more videos. I think a little more comfortable than I realized it was going to be. So we'll probably do more lives like this as I get more acclimated with navigating StreamYard again. It's been a minute, and I look forward to it. Um, life is really good, but I also want to encourage you to make sure we're having these conversations. You see, if you're in comments and you see people just kind of blasting clearly without any thought or any just time spent in the cases, then um, don't be afraid to speak up, because it's important for people to have those difficult conversations. It's when we don't have these difficult conversations that you end up with just horrible outcomes. And it starts at home. Everything starts at home. Wholeheartedly believe that. And I do have I do have a video coming strictly, I say strictly, but primarily with the mother-son dynamic as far as Cindy and Chris. And Yeah. I did find something at the cemetery when I went to, North Carolina earlier in the year, so I'll be sharing that. Definitely am curious what your thoughts are on some of the items that I found at the grave when I was there, and I'll be sharing with you a little more of the interviews that are coming up. I'm really, really hoping that this one person will take some time. I have to plan a trip. I will literally have to plan a trip for that, conversation to take place, but I really don't mind, and, um, I'm hoping because I think a lot will come out of that in a good way. So, you guys are still here. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. I am going to end it, but I'm back. I will be back more frequently, and I did have to learn a completely new software for editing, and, um, but thanks for bearing with me. I'm sorry if I was a little repetitive. I've been nursing a migraine all day today, so anywho, any questions? I will figure out how to have a mod that will help for sure. And Amber, I'm so happy you got to hop in here. It's been a minute. I haven't even been in our Facebook group as much. But so I'm gonna leave you guys to it. And thank you so much for joining in. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. And there's quite a bit to come. So just stay tuned, bear with me, and don't mind keep me in your prayers that we get some pretty definitive answers on the 23rd. It'd be very helpful. So, thank you guys. Have a good night.